Hey there, hello there. It's Jeff Cody. I'm welcome to Sports Catastrophe Birthday Boy. But this is different. These are birthday boys. And no, it's not like the Sedin twins in which they're twins and all that. Imagine for a while that there's 365 days to be born. Of course, or 366 if you're a leap day baby. And what are the odds that two Hall of Famers from the same sport would be born on the same day in the same province, but not in the same city? That would be wrong. What if I tell you that one of the birthday boys was born, the city he was born in was where he was drafted in front of a national TV audience, but not by the Habs? And what if I told you that the other guy was born in Quebec City? I was born in Quebec City, but almost became a Quebec City hockey player if it weren't for strange circumstances. This is the weirdest story I've done. It's two hockey Hall of Famers being born on the same day. Not in the same town, but it's creepy, the coincidences. Allow me to demonstrate. Exhibit A, Mario Lemieux. October 6, 1965, he was born. He was born on the same day as Patrick Watt. Not just, day of the month, but birthday and all. He's 56, obviously. He played his whole entire NHL career as a Pittsburgh Penguin. 17 years. From 1984 to 2006. But there was one problem. You're thinking, wait, that's 22 years. Yes, your math is right. But he retired and then came back. He was a great player. He was a prospect. He had a lot of going for him. His early career in the Quebec League was just amazing. You can't imagine how dominant he was. And all that. He even helped his Laval Boisons get to the 1984 Memorial Cup. Famous for being in my hometown of Kitchener, Ontario. So at the 84 Memorial Cup, they sucked, which was weird. Lemieux was only held to 5 points as Laval went down in 3 straight games and didn't even get a chance to qualify for the playoff rounds in the Memorial Cup. He didn't want to play for the Canadian Juniors in 1984 because of how the coach Dave King treated him. And he didn't want to break up his phenomenal Quebec League season. Now remember, 1984, the national attention towards the junior tournament was not as big as it was in subsequent years, especially in 1991 when TSN actually said, hey, you know what? We'll take good care of the tournament, and took it from CBC's things. Anyway, Lemieux was courted a lot. He was a top prospect, so much so that New Jersey and Pittsburgh were trying to play the Turtle Derby. As in, they were trying to tank on purpose to make sure that Lemieux could play for their teams. Obviously, the draft lottery wasn't invented yet in the NHL, so whoever had the worst mark in the NHL, hopefully having their first overall pick, would get the choice, would get the chance to draft this once-in-a-lifetime guy. And he did. So the 1984 draft happened, and he was first on the board to the Pittsburgh Penguins. Pittsburgh outsmarted New Jersey because they had this very terrible goalie by the name of Vincent Tremblay. And they knew if they played their other goalie, he would win games and would cost them a chance to get Lemieux. Pittsburgh had their own NHL problems. They had to deal with bad ownership and almost relocation on a yearly basis. So, unfortunately, Lemieux and his agent couldn't come to a deal with the Penguins. So, even though his name was announced as the number 1 pick in the NHL draft, he refused to wear the sweater because he didn't like how negotiations were. Kind of sour grapes in my mind. So, he didn't don the Penguins jersey and said that Pittsburgh doesn't want him bad enough. But Lemieux did get a 2-year contract that was to his liking, and problem averted. Man, Lemieux was such a dick. And he would be right. But Lemieux was good. He helped the Penguins out. Remember, in his first game, October 11, 1984, he actually stole the puck from Ray Borg. Yes, that Ray Borg. And scored a goal against Pete Peters on his first NHL shot. Amazing, don't you think? Well, regardless, Lemieux looked good. I mean, he won the Calder Trophy, obviously. I mean, who was going to deny him the Calder Trophy? And Lemieux was part of that famous 87 Canada Cup team in which he scored the winning goal against the Soviets to win the Canada Cup for Canada. So that's good. Lemieux actually won the scoring title in 1988, usurping Wayne Gretzky's hold on the Art Ross Trophy, winning it 7 times in a row. Can you imagine? He actually won the Hart Trophy too in 1988, and the All-Star Game MVP after his 6-point game was spectacular in St. Louis. Pittsburgh could not make the playoffs. That was the trade-off, unfortunately. But in 1989, he helped the Penguins do well in the playoffs, having a tough battle with the Flyers, who would go on to get their butts handed to them by the Canadiens in the conference final. But Lemieux looked good. In fact, he had 7 points in. He had 8 points in a game April 28th against the Flyers in 1989, which was good. Lemieux actually had a point in 46 straight games, but he was hurt. So his streak ended, technically, which wasn't good for him or the team. But, Lemieux looked good. In fact, Lemieux was the All-Star Game MVP in Pittsburgh, where the game was held. And where, ironically enough, it would be the first time that an American network would do an NHL game since 1980, when the Bob Nystrom goal game was the last time an American prime channel got an NHL game. 10 years, fuck. Anyway, Lemieux looked good. Unfortunately, Lemieux's back injury progressed into a herniated disc, which had an infection. So Lemieux had to have back surgery, and he missed a lot of time in the 1990-91 season. It didn't help that the Penguins didn't seem to be that good in his absence. Thankfully, though, the Penguins made a big trade deadline deal that sent some players to Hartford for Joe Mullen, Larry Murphy, Ron Francis, and Alf Samuelson. Well, actually, Mullen and Murphy didn't play for the Whalers, but you get my drift, I hope. So anyhow, using that nucleus, the Penguins shocked a lot of people by getting to the Stanley Cup Finals in the first place. They did take on the miracle Minnesota North Stars, who thankfully didn't win the Stanley Cup. It would have been embarrassing. How's But then again, I mean, they did take a 2-1 series lead on the Penguins. Lemieux would score that famous goal, end-to-end goal in Game 2 off of John Casey, and that was memorable for all the right reasons. Unfortunately, Lemieux would have troubles tying his own skates and all that, so he had to have somebody else help him with that. The guts of this guy, with the back problems and all that. Lemieux would have some injury issues, and strangely enough, he still got the Art Ross Trophy. Sadly, though, Lemieux would be slashed by Adam Graves in the hand in the Patrick Division Finals. But Lemieux still helped the Penguins win the Stanley Cup, for one thing. And for another thing, he helped he led the playoff, scoring with 34 points. Lemieux was astonishing. Unfortunately, though, things would be bad for Lemieux as his world crumbled due to an injury. Not just any injury. A non-hockey injury by the name of non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. So he had to have radiation treatments. And a lot of people were upset that his hockey career was suffering. A lot of people said that they were sure about Lemieux's life in general. So that's scary. The Penguins struggled with his 2 months off. However, on the day of his last radiation treatment, he managed to fly to Philadelphia and inserted himself into the starting lineup. against the Flyers in Philadelphia, and the Flyer fans gave him a massive standing ovation, which was shocking to say the least. So yeah, a rare occurrence because of the Flyers-Penguins rivalry. Pittsburgh would win 17 consecutive games, not tie any of them, but win them, to be first overall for the first time in franchise history. The Penguins were the juggernaut and were the heavy, heavy favorites to win the 1993 Stanley Cup and get their third straight title. Sadly, though, for some reason, the New York Islanders ended up beating them in the conference semis, or the division finals, if you will. Now, of course, it was the Haka Mario situation, because obviously, how else were they going to beat the Penguins? They had to hack Lemieux out of it. All that. Lemieux did win the Hart Trophy, though. Lemieux decided to take time off for the 95 season to do with his back and all that. Although a lot of people griped that he was just upset that of all the hooking and slashing stuff he got, he was taking a stand. Gripe or no gripe, people were concerned about his health and all that. Well, thankfully, though, he came back to the game, and he got his 500th goal soon after. Lemieux looked good. Lemieux decided to retire following the 1997 playoffs. And the fans were just giving him ovation after ovation. Once again, the Flyer fans gave him a massive standing ovation. Even though that the Penguins were knocked out by the Flyers in the playoffs, they still thought he was worthy of their praise. You got to take it to Flyer fans. They were gutsy, and they liked Lemieux. So Lemieux decided to hang him up. And the Hockey Hall of Fame said, hey, you know what? We'll give you no waiting time for the Hall of Fame. Beautiful. So post-retirement, he was hoping things going. But the Penguins' free spending ways of the 90s came at a high price. Throughout the 90s, the Penguins owners mismanaged the team, owing over $90 million to creditors. So the team would have to make a lot of trades to stop the bleeding. Financially, of course. The Penguins actually had to go through probably bankruptcy. It's called 98. And it looked like the Penguins were going to be basically folded or moved out of town. But Lemieux stepped in with a proposal to buy the team. Years of deferred salaries had made him the Penguins' largest creditor. He proposed to convert $20 million of his deferred salary into equity to give him controlling interest of the Penguins, and promised to keep the team in Pittsburgh. Thankfully, though, he was given permission. So he's happy. So he became the main man in Pittsburgh. And then for some strange reason, Lemieux decided, hey, you know what? Let's take it one step further. I'm going to try to get back into the game. It's like, what? He's trying to play his way to the NHL. Not a good idea. But he decided to take it upon himself. And Lemieux said that his only son, Austin, wanted to see his father play. So he decided to. In a game against the Leafs, he didn't miss a beat, scoring 3 points to knock the Leafs flat. Lemieux was part of the Penguins team. Lemieux was part of the North American All-Stars during the All-Star game in Denver. Lemieux only played in 43 games in the 00-01 season, but he scored 76 points, and he finished 26th in scoring. He had the highest point game average that season. If he played a full season, obviously he would have won the Hart Ross. He was actually a finalist for the Hart Trophy. And surprisingly enough, he helped the terrible Penguins, who were basically number 8 in the Eastern Conference, almost get to the Stanley Cup Finals. But unfortunately, the Devils sunk them. The Penguins had issues. They had to sell their players for financial reasons, and Yager was sent to Washington, so Lemieux became captain. All that. He didn't play much for the Penguins in 2002. However, that was to rest himself up, and it worked because he helped Canada win the 2002 Olympics. So it was amazing. Yeah, it was amazing. So Lemieux looked good. And strange enough, he became on the ice in 2006. Unfortunately, he got hurt. He decided to retire January 2006 at age 40. But at least he got to retire on a good move. Rumors were circulating that Lemieux was selling the Penguins to Jim Balcelli, who were going to sell the team, put the team in Southern Ontario. But sadly, that failed. But Lemieux's ownership group helped them get a new arena in Pittsburgh to replace the Igloo. And Lemieux helped the Penguins from the front office win the 2009 Stanley Cup, the 2016 Cup, and the 2017 Cup. So he's won 3 Stanley Cups as owner of the Penguins. So Lemieux looked pretty good himself. In fact, Lemieux was a star. His younger brother Alain played in the NHL. Anyway, Lemieux said he would smoke a pack of cigarettes a day. However, because of his Hodgkin's disease, he basically thought that he needed to give it up. Mario Lemieux married his sweetheart, Natalie Asselin, in 1993. They had 4 children: Lauren, Stephanie, Austin, and Alexa. Austin was born prematurely, but is perfectly healthy and plays for Arizona State. But it's like 25 now. Anyway, Lemieux and family live in a Pittsburgh suburb. So, yeah, it was weird how Lemieux had 4 children but only 1 son. Anyway, yeah. He was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma and tried to help Austin out. He had a major legacy. And, he has NHL records. 13 goals in a season that were shorthanded. Most power play points in a single season, 80. Only player with 3 8-point games, regular seasons, and playoffs included. The only player to score 5 goals 5 different ways. That was in 1988 when he did it even strength, power play, penalty kill, penalty shot, and empty net. Highest goals per game average in the playoffs ever, 0.71 goals a game. Most points in a single All-Star game was 6, and a few other records. So he ended his NHL career with 690 goals and 1,723 points in an astonishing 915 games. And 76 playoff goals in 107 games. So, yeah, he played a lot of All-Star games. He was pretty good. 5 Stanley Cups, 2 as a player, 3 as an owner, 2 Conn Smythe trophies, 6 Art Rosses, 4 Ted Lindsay awards for the Players MVP, voted by the players, 3 Hart trophies, 88, 93, 96. All-Star Game MVP 3 times, a lot of All-Star Game performance, and the Calder Trophy, and the Masterton in 93. He deserved it. In fact, he had a video game named after him for the Sega Genesis, Mario Lemieux Hockey, but not really that good. However, he was the cover athlete for NHL 2002, which I had, and I liked the weird things like sumo hockey and last man standing, but I really don't like that so much. So yeah, Mario Lemieux is a good golfer, and he's pretty good. So that's one half of the story. Let's go with the next half. So that's one guy. How about the other guy, Patrick Roy? He is my idol. I mean, I have a thing for goaltending. I used to be a good goaltender, but of course my knees were not my best thing, and I really sucked. So Patrick Roy is the GM and head coach of the Quebec Ramparts in the Quebec Junior League. Ironically, where Mario Lemieux was famous for. One of the greatest goalies of all time, and one of the greatest 100 NHL players in history, obviously. His nickname is St. Patrick. He spent his playing time with Montreal and Colorado. He spent 11 years with Montreal, 8 with Colorado. So he played 18 years, because one was with 2 teams at the same time. Wall won 4 Stanley Cups, 2 with each franchise. Wall was born in Quebec City, as I said, but grew up in Cap Rouge, Quebec. Wall was selected as the greatest goalie in NHL history in 2004, inducted in the Hockey Hall of Fame in 2006. When he was eligible, first-time eligibility, he won the Conn Smythe Trophy. That means playoff MVP 3 times. The only one to do so in different decades, and the only one to do it for 2 teams. His number 33 is retired by both Montreal and Colorado. He's popularized the butterfly style of goaltending, which he learned from Jacques Bouchard, but Dan Bouchard. And he was GM and head coach of the Quebec Ramparts before he went to, and then he returned in 2018. But then he was the head coach for Colorado for a few years, winning the Jack Adams Trophy. So it was amazing. I read Patrick Waugh's autobiography. Autobiography a couple months ago, and it was amazing. His life. His mother was actually English speaking. Wow. Waugh's older brother, his younger brother, Stefan Waugh, who tried to be in the NHL but didn't do so well. Waugh wanted to be a goalie from the age of 7. He would play at the Quebec International Pee Wee hockey tournaments, and then he would play for Granby. The weird thing about Granby is that if you look at Granby's records in the Q when he played, they sucked. But Patrick Waugh gave up a lot of shots because the team just sucked. Waugh was drafted in the third round, 51st overall in the 1984 NHL draft. The famous 84 draft, which Lemieux got drafted in. Waugh got drafted in the 3rd round. Also to note about the 1984 NHL draft, well, it was held in Montreal, but Montreal shocked everyone with, what was it, the 5th pick in the draft? Let me see here. I apologize. So, with the 5th pick, after Marty Lemieux was picked by Pittsburgh, Kurt Muller was picked by the Devils, Eddie Olczyk picked by the Blackhawks, and Al Iafrate for the Leafs. Montreal decided to draft Peter Sobotta, defenseman from the Czech Republic. And it was like, what the hell are they doing? Are they stupid? It'll be years before he can leave Czechoslovakia. But no, Montreal search bar knew that he was in Canada. He got to Canada, and that's how Montreal drafted him. Fun fact, Patrick Waugh was drafted alongside another goalie trying to make the Montreal system. His name? Troy Crosby. Kid you not. So, yeah, Waugh's grandmother, or maternal grandmother, I guess, was a big Habs fan, but died before his grandson got drafted. Waugh wanted to be a fan of the Quebec Nordiques. Well, you're from the Quebec City area. What do you expect? So Waugh played for Granby before being called up with the Habs just to be a 3rd goalie. Montreal had issues in a game against Winnipeg at the Winnipeg Arena. Doug Soltard was in net. It was 4-4, and then Jacques Lemaire, who was coach of the Habs, pointed to Waugh and told him to start the 3rd period. Montreal ended up winning the game 6-4. Waugh played for 20 minutes and got credited for the win, obviously. He was sent back to the AHL and all that. Patrick Waugh became the starting goalie for the AHL team, winning the Calder Cup, or the AHL's version of the Stanley Cup. It was amazing that he just proved it. Waugh would play regularly for the Habs and got 47 regular season games in his first year. Incumbent Steve Penny was injured in January, so he got to step in. And he was a star and all that. He helped Montreal somehow, in some way, get to the Stanley Cup finals. Not without hardship, especially against Hartford. They ended up having to beat Hartford in overtime in Game 7 thanks to one Claude Lemieux. Montreal then would take care of the New York Rangers in 5 games to get to the Stanley Cup finals. But Game 3 was when he really shone. Overtime, the Rangers were shooting on him, and Waugh stopped everything. Montreal had one shot, Claude Lemieux scores. And then the fans were just what the hell? And, as a 20-year-old, it's hard. They took care of the Calgary Flames, who took care of Edmonton in the division finals. So Montreal won. He was made part of the all-rookie team. He should have won the Calder, but Gary Sutter of the Flames got it. Waugh would continue being a star for Montreal. He would be in a goalie tandem with Brian Hayward, yes, the Ducks announcer guy, winning the Jennings Trophy for best goals against average 3 straight years. Waugh and the Habs regularly allowed not a lot of goals, but their offense would sputter at times. He did help Montreal get to the 89 Stanley Cup Finals, but they lost to Calgary. Ironically, the final game was at the Montreal Forum, where it was said that no Montreal team lost the Stanley Cup on Forum ice. But it happened. Waugh would do very well for himself. Unfortunately, Montreal had issues, and that's getting out of the playoffs. Boston was finally starting to get on Montreal's nerves and beating them in playoff series, as they had failed to do so for 4 decades. Pat Burns was blamed because his defense-first philosophy wore thin on Montreal fans. So he got booted, and here came Jacques Demers, who was a pretty good coach. They ended up third in the division at the end of the 93 season behind Boston and, guess who, Quebec. The Wall would have to deal with the arch rival Nordiques without home ice advantage. Wall would face Ron Hextall in a goalie duel. Quebec started off with 2 straight wins, and people wanted Andre Red Light Rasico to take over in net. Worst, Dan Bouchard, who was Waugh's idol, was the Nordiques goaltending coach and said that he had subbed Waugh. Waugh was upset, and Jacques Demers refused to put Rasico in the net, saying that he got to the playoffs with Patrick Waugh, he's going to be out of the playoffs with Patrick Waugh. So Rasico did play parts of Game 5 against the Nordiques, but that was when Waugh had a puck in the collarbone. Waugh would help Montreal come back from 0-2 deficit to win in 6 games against the Nordiques, sweep the Buffalo Sabres, who somehow shocked Boston with a sweep. And then they took care of the New York Islanders. That was when the Habs had their 11-game winning streak, which tied an NHL record. Waugh set a record for 10 straight playoff overtime wins. 2 against Quebec, 3 against Buffalo, 2 against the Islanders in the Stanley Cup semifinals, and 3 against the LA Kings. The Kings won Game 1, but then Game 2 was McSorley's stick problems. I mean, Demers did kind of break sport gamesmanship by asking Kerry Fraser to check the stick. Man, I hate Kerry Fraser so much. You don't know why. Waugh shockingly led the Habs to the Stanley Cup playoffs and the Stanley Cup. The Habs were the defending champs in '94, didn't really play like defending champs, and they lost to Boston in 7 games in the first round. But that was eventful because Patrick Waugh had an appendicitis issue. He missed Game 3. He would return in Games 4 and 5 and shock Montreal fans by getting them to a 3-2 series lead against Boston, which he failed. Montreal would miss the playoffs for the first time in 25 years in the 95 season, and in 96 didn't start well. Jacques Demers was canned, and Mario Tremblay was the new head coach. Waugh and Tremblay would have a strained relationship, and Tremblay was not too happy with Waugh's English-speaking abilities, despite the fact that Waugh had an English-speaking mother. Tremblay's sports radio career would be bad when he mocked Waugh and all that and targeted him. Tremblay and Waugh were not too happy. Tremblay made an English faux pas before their game against the Leafs, in Tremblay's first game, and Waugh and Mike Keane laughed at him. But they nearly came to blows. Patrick Waugh was in net against the Detroit Red Wings on December 2nd, 1995. A normal home game, which will see the last time the Red Wings will play at the Fayetteville Forum in Montreal, as the Forum was due to close in March '96. Against the Dallas Stars? Are you kidding me? They could have found an original 16 like Toronto or Boston or Chicago to close the arena with, and they close it with Dallas? Give me a fucking break. However, that game would be known for Patrick Waugh giving up a lot of shots. Remember, this is the 1996 Red Wings that won 62 games in the NHL, in that NHL season. So, yeah. It was Montreal's worst home game in franchise history. It just happened to be Waugh's worst game ever, giving up 9 goals and 11-1 loss. Worst of all, Tremblay did not tell Waugh to get off the bench after 5 or 6 goals. Even though the first period ended 5-1, Tremblay didn't put Patrick Blonsky in net to replace Waugh. That would be a tipping point for Waugh. Finally, after 9 goals, Jablonski came in. But Waugh was not too pleased. Waugh was upset. He walked past Mario Tremblay, who gave kind of a smug look, and then Waugh found the Canadiens owner Ronald Corey and basically says, "It's my last game in Montreal." Waugh would be suspended for the Habs. Mario Tremblay did say that it was terrible and all that. Wall said that he gave up 5 goals in the first period and should have been replaced, but Mario put him in net to humiliate him. The Habs were forced into a no choice but to fire a shot and trade Wall. So they found a partner in Colorado. They sent Wall and Keane to the Colorado Avalanche for Jocelyn Thibault, Rodney Ruzhinsky, and Andrei Kovalenko. Not much of a return. Thibault would be decent in Montreal, but he would have to deal with people saying he's no Patrick Roy. Now, remember the part I said at the start that Roy was born in the city that he could have played for in the NHL career? Well, you got to remember, the 95 Quebec Nordiques were the best team in the conference and would take on the New York Rangers in the first round. Not only did they lose to the Rangers in the first round, a few days later, it was announced they were moving to Denver, Colorado. So Patrick Roy could have been a Hab, could have been a Nordique. Actually, no. Montreal would definitely have traded him to the Western Conference, but not to Colorado. And especially not Detroit, because they had a 2-goalie system of their own. Osgood and Vernon. Would he be a Leaf? No. Felix Potvin was decent. So, yeah. So, it was one of the most lopsided trades in NHL history, especially after the fact that Wall helped the Avalanche win the Stanley Cup in '96, shocking Detroit in the conference finals, and Montreal just fell into mediocrity. So, anyway, Patrick Roy was good in the '96 playoffs. He did lose a playoff game to the Chicago Blackhawks, and Jeremy Roenick mocked him, saying that it should have been a penalty shot. There's no doubt about it. I like Patrick Roy that it would stop me. I just want to know where he was in Game 3, getting his shot out of the Raptors in the United Center, maybe. Roy would retort with, "I can't really hear what Jeremy says because I got my 2 Stanley Cup rings plugging my ears, plugging my ear." And everyone laughed. It was amazing, all that. Roy was huge for the Colorado Avalanche. He was the face of the franchise. And in 2001, he shocked a lot of people by getting his Avalanche off the floor from being down 3-2 to the New Jersey Devils in the finals against a young Marion Brodeur and winning the Stanley Cup for great work. Roy was given the Conn Smythe Trophy, obviously. Roy would unfortunately end his NHL career in a bad way. The Avalanche were up 3-1 in the 2003 playoffs against the Minnesota Wild. Minnesota shocked them with a couple of wins. And then Game 7, in overtime, in Denver, Andrew Burnett, with that famous goal, Roy decided to retire. Roy would play for Canada in the 1998 Winter Olympics, being the starting goalie. Unfortunately, Canada did not win a medal, mostly because of how Dominik Hasek stoned the Canadians in the semifinals. Roy and Hasek had a great rivalry and all that. Roy did not play for Canada in the 2002 Winter Olympics. After retiring from the NHL, Roy joined the Quebec Ramparts as Vice President of Hockey Operations, becoming the owner and general manager. He was named head coach of the team in 2005. Shockingly enough, in his first season, the Ramparts won the Memorial Cup in 2006, beating Moncton. Now, normally, Quebec City would have not been to the Memorial Cup because they lost to Moncton in the Quebec League Finals. However, because Moncton hosted the Memorial Cup, then the second place team from the league that is hosting it got in. It's kind of how Kingston got in the 2008 Memorial Cup when Kitchener won it. Kitchener won the OHL title. Anyway, Roy became the 7th head coach to win the Memorial Cup in his rookie year. The last was a former Hab legend, Claude Julien, with Hull, now called Gatineau Olympics in 1997. Unfortunately, Roy had some issues. Online issues. The worst part was that his starting goalie was one of his sons, Jonathan, and Jonathan Roy got into deep trouble. Jonathan was suspended for 7 games. Patrick Roy was suspended for 5 games. In fact, Roy's other son couldn't really play for the Ramparts, and he got suspended 15 games for cross-striking an opponent in the head. which was shocking. Waugh was given a chance to be the head coach of the Avalanche in 2009, but he turned it down. But Waugh couldn't resist, and in 2013 he decided to be head coach and vice president of hockey operations for the Avalanche. It was shocking, all that. Waugh shocked a lot of people by winning 52 games for the Avalanche as the head coach, giving them the franchise record that they never had in their Stanley Cup championship rings of 96 and 01. Colorado won the Central Division and had 112 points. Never lost after leading after 2 periods. And he got the Jack Adams Award for top coach. Unfortunately, though, the number 2 seed Avalanche shockingly lost Game 7 to the Minnesota Wild. Again, Minnesota winning Game 7 in overtime against a powerful Colorado team. And the worst part, I know, is that, I'm a Patrick Wild fan through and through. The worst part you'll probably hear about me is I actually picked Minnesota against Colorado. Because when I heard Minnesota was playing Colorado in the 2014 playoffs, I had visions of that 2003 series in my head, saying Minnesota will somehow win Game 7 against the Avalanche. True to form, I was shockingly correct on every front. But here's the thing. That helped me in the first round get 7 out of 8 picks. Usually I don't get more than 6 picks right in the first round. If it wasn't for the stupid Sharks blow up and losing that 3-0 series lead to the Kings in the 2014 playoffs, I would have went the first round El Perfecto 8-0 because I picked every first round matchup. Another fun fact about the Patrick Waugh thing. Well, Patrick Waugh did get canned in 2016, and then he went back to Quebec City for the Ramparts. Is that the night of that Patrick Waugh debacle of 95, I was actually down at Grandma Diamond's, right, may she rest in peace, home for the Bright Ontario Santa Claus Parade. So she had a friend named Ethel Cassidy who didn't live that far from Grandma. And, Grandma and I actually decided to visit her house and to watch the Leaf game on TV against the Anaheim Ducks. And then, all of a sudden, they did a game update for the Montreal Canadiens against the Detroit Red Wings. Detroit was winning 9-1, and Waugh went nuts. Anyway, Patrick Waugh married his sweetheart, Michelle Pius, June 9, 1990. They had 3 children, Jonathan, Frederick, and Yana. His sons played for the Quebec Ramparts. And Jonathan left hockey to pursue a music career. I don't know what Frederick does now. Anyway, Patrick Waugh was in trouble in 2000, just after he set the record for most wins by an NHL goalie, when he had some domestic problems with Michelle. Waugh and his wife were in an argument. His wife made a hang-up call to 911. Waugh was cleared of all charges, thankfully enough. But Patrick and Michelle did divorce in 2003. Waugh did not remarry. I thought they were still married. Fuck. Waugh was actually known for his superstitious quirks, as in he talked to the net post, he never talked to reporters on days in which he was scheduled to play, and he didn't let his skates touch the red or blue lines on the ice. He stepped over them. I forgot about that thing. So anyway, yeah, Patrick Waugh has a big legacy in both Colorado and Montreal, despite the fact Montreal got rid of him. All that. Colorado retired his number 33, October 2003, whereas Montreal waited till 2008 to retire his number 33, making him the 6th NHL player to have his number retired by 2 teams. Waugh won 200 games for 2 franchises, Montreal and Colorado, which was shocking and all that. In fact, Justin Morneau would wear number 33 in the baseball diamond in tribute of Waugh. Waugh's NHL career had 551 wins in 1,029 regular season games with 66 shutouts, and have 151 playoff wins. Both marks would be toppled by one Martin Brodeur. Fuck. His NHL coaching career, he was 130 wins, 92 losses, 24 overtime/shootout losses in the regular season, for a decent winning percentage. 284 points in his career, 1 division title, but 1 postseason appearance. So, yeah, not so good. Now, do you? Yep, he has the NHL record for playoff games played by a goalie. 247. Most win. Oh, he does have the wins by goaltender. I thought Berger beat him to that. About 151 wins. He was the first NHL goalie to get 1,000 wins and 500 game wins, but Berger beat him on both accounts. And 3 Conn Smythe trophies. He's still the champion. And he definitely is the champion. I mean, he's my idol after all. I have to speak highly of him. You know. Anyway, I'm Jeff Diamond. I know.